Hey everybody, UncleDagger here, and today I'm bringing you a review of a very hotly anticipated item. This is the GI2 from Grand Innovations. A lot to talk about with this mod. It has a pretty complicated menu system. It has a lot of flexibility. It's designed for drippers and sub-ohm builds primarily. If you're looking for something that can work equally on a cartomizer, clearomizer, a regular tank, a Genesis, a dripper, with full flexibility and ease of use, you're probably still going to be looking at a DNA 30. But at the same time, this does have a niche. This is a purpose-driven device. We've talked about devices like this before in the Duke video in particular. This is another one of those devices, and it works extremely well for that intended purpose. Let's talk a little bit about the features here. So first off, what you'll see here is this has a beautiful TFT Color Display. Now this is the raw aluminum model. Again, the finish is a little bit rough around the edges. Not bad though, really, for a first generation device. There was a pretty substantial delay between the promised time for the first run pre-orders and the time that it was delivered, but it's a pretty good device. Let's talk about the features though. Variable voltage and variable wattage. What you see here is the actual variable wattage screen. I'm going to go ahead and flip this over to the variable voltage. So there is your variable voltage screen, and as you can see, you have your resistance right there. It will read the resistance when I first press the button. So I can see that right now my resistance is 0.52 on this coil. I believe I have to tighten my terminals just a little bit because it should be right around 0.3435, something like that. It has a real-time ohms checker, real-time current meter, a battery meter, and this battery meter actually changes when the device is under load. So if you take a look here, you will see it is going to change. This battery display over here is going to change when I press that button to show how much of a load it's taking on. It has a 100 watt maximum output. Now some people have experimented with even lower builds and have noticed that the output level can even go up past 130 watts with specific builds. Honestly, I'm not interested in vaping that way all the time. It's just a little bit too extreme for me, but we are going to discuss the possibilities here with this device. One of the things I do want to touch on is it has a lot of safety features. There's actually a whole screen that is dedicated, one of the options screen that is dedicated to discussing or showing those different safety features. It runs on two 18650 batteries. As you can see behind the door here, I have some Sony VTC4s in it right now. It does have a PCB board temperature checker, which is very crucial in a device like this that's going to be holding a lot of heat. You do not want that board overheating and burning out. So that is very crucial. It has an SD card slot for custom wallpaper. There's some additional modes where you can change the display to show you just a custom wallpaper with a small bottom bar that discusses the specific settings in a given mode. So there's a lot of options. We're going to go ahead and take a closer look, get down to the desk, and discuss those options and how to get into those menus. Works really well. Let's go ahead and take a closer look. Alright, so here we have our GI2. As you can see, this is raw aluminum finish. You can notice a couple of those scratches that I was talking about, or at least the rough finishing here. I don't really mind this because just looking at the design, this is more utilitarian, kind of like a workhorse type mod. So I don't really mind that. Similar to the Duke, it is a function over form type device. If you're buying this, you're obviously not buying this because it looks like a sleek design. I mean, they did give you a fairly nice design considering what it had to house, but it's by no means what someone would consider an elegant look. So we have two buttons here. This is for your voltage or wattage adjustment as well as to navigate in the menu. This is a modifier button. This is basically what you will press to get to the various function screens. And this is your fire button right here. Now the fire button is flush on mine. It's actually a little bit more recessed than the other buttons here. Which is kind of nice because I don't want to accidentally engage it, although you can set a lock mode. Now if we lift up this battery door here, you can see inside the device a little bit, fairly straightforward. You can see that they do indicate polarity for the batteries, which is very nice. It prevents you from putting them in backwards. What you see here is the SD card slot, and that uses a MicroSD. I believe I have a 32 gig MicroSD card. They do recommend anything larger than 512 megs of SD card as excuse me, more than sufficient for the intended purpose. Again, this is mainly just intended if you wanted to set a custom wallpaper. One caveat is that if you do not put an SD card in this slot, the device will run exceedingly slow. Like, you'll press the fire button and you'll see there's like maybe a half second to a second delay between when you press the fire button and the device begins vaping. So definitely you want to fill that SD card slot with a micro SD card. I have some Sony VTC4s here. They should have most of their charge. So I'm going to go ahead and pop these in so you can see what this looks like when it's booting up. So you can see it's in power standby mode. The screen just dimmed. I'm going to go ahead and put the battery door back in place. One thing I did not particularly like is this battery door does not fit very tightly on the device. It's pretty loose. Actually, if I turn this upside down, it would actually shake out most of the time when I tried that. But one of the things I want to talk about is these features, because there are quite a few. So in order to get the device to boot up, you're going to hold down your menu key and press the fire button. You hold that in for a couple seconds and it shows you the boot screen. Now if you did have a custom wallpaper, a custom boot image on that SD card, at this point it would actually show that image. But as you can see here, it is just a black screen until it does boot up. So there is our default. Now you can modify your defaults. My default is set to start at 3.2 volts on the variable voltage screen, but as you can see, these buttons actually increase and decrease the voltage. And I'm going to screw my atomizer on there. Again, using the Quasar from Vicious Ant. And it shows vaping. When I press this button, it's going to take a reading. It's going to start firing the device, and it shows vaping there. And it also shows my real-time battery meter. It shows the load on that battery. It shows my power, which this is basically just an Ohm's law calculator that's built into the device. So at 3.5 volts, I'm at 34.5 watts, and I'm at 9.8 amps. So to go over to variable wattage mode, I'm going to hold down the menu key and I'm going to press this button here on the right hand side. It's going to detect the coil resistance, take a reading, and then bring us to the power screen. As you can see, my default is 50 watts on variable wattage. We'll discuss how to change that in the menu here a little bit later on. And again, pressing the fire button, fires, and it shows you your duration of vape time for that specific vape. So a lot of information presented here. Now, locking mode. So I'm going to hold my menu button down and I'm going to press this button, the fire button, and it's going to lock the device. So press fire, nothing happens. The screen does dim after a couple seconds. Now this brings up one of my gripes. You can't actually, at least I have not found a way, to totally shut off the screen. This is about the most power saving you're going to get out of it. So, short of pulling the batteries, I have not found a way to shut the device off completely. Now, one of the other things to note here is this does have a 10-second cutoff, so if you're fond of taking extremely long draws, this may not be the right device for you. But I will say, if you're at 50 watts, you are not going to be taking a very long draw, because you're going to get your vapor pretty quick, like within 2 to 3 seconds, honestly. Let's see, what other features do we have here? That's pretty much it for the inside of the device. We're going to go ahead and talk about the menu items next. I'm not really sure what this screw is for. I did ask. I haven't gotten a response yet. I don't know whether that's an adjustable center post. Now, as you can see here, my Quasar actually sits fairly close to the device. There's not too much of an unsightly gap there. I kind of lucked out because this Quasar has a recessed center post, or a center post that's almost flush with the atomizer. So your mileage may vary. I do have some stuff that sits pretty tall, and there's a unsightly gap there. I don't know whether that can be adjusted yet, but we will be back in a second and talk about the different menu. Okay, so menus. Let's go ahead and talk about this. To get into the menu, you are going to press your menu modifier button here for about 3 seconds, and then you're going to press your fire button and then let go of them both quickly, and you'll see the focus change down here. So let's go ahead and do that now. So as you can see, I am in the menu right now. We have 4 different screens. The first one does have a lock icon. That is going to perform the same function as holding these down for a couple seconds and lock the device. The second page is actually the settings menu, and I'm going to press my fire button briefly to select that. So you can see we have brightness adjust, vape lock enabled. This is an interesting feature. This is not implemented in the first generation of GI2s. The next runs should have that feature available. I have no idea what it does. It's just there to show you that it will be a future option. As we can see here, we have variable voltage settings and variable power settings. This is how you make your adjustments. To select the next menu item, you actually just press the menu key here to scroll down the list. So you can see my variable voltage setting. This is the default. When I put in new batteries, it's going to start at 3.5 volts. I'm actually going to crank that up to 4 volts. And you can see your variable wattage mode. Currently it's set to 50. So you can set these, make them the way you vape for your defaults. And then we also have the menu exit, which I will scroll down to here. Let's see, menu exit. And I'm going to go ahead and exit that menu. There we go. Okay, next screen. So again, I'm going to hold this down for about 3 seconds and then press fire. I'm going to scroll over. This screen here talks about the Grand Innovations protection. So we have ANP means ADDI not present. If you try to fire it without an ADDI on, you will see the ANP message. OCP, overcurrent protection, over voltage protection on the specific pages. Of course, current being that there's too many amps passing through the device, so your load is too extreme for the device. Over OVP, over voltage, so obviously you're trying to overpower whatever you have connected. And then the timer, that would be for the duration of vaping. So after 10 seconds, you'd see that show up on the screen. And then it shows your system units. So this is just kind of a little help page to show you the various functions. So I'm going to go ahead and back out of this menu. And again, I'm going to enter the settings. I got to time this right. Oop. Still don't have it. There we go. And this is the information screen, which tells you about the unit. So this is the GI2, shows you the manufacturer time or date, and the serial number, which in my case is 008, and then the website. And I don't believe there's anything at that website currently. I did take a look at it. I will post a link to the Facebook group page on the video review information section. But that's pretty much it. Now let's go ahead and go back out to the main menu, because I did want to show you something else too. Right now you can see this is at 8.2 volts across the batteries. These are fairly new batteries. What I have noticed is that the cutoff point on this, where it won't vape anymore, seems to be about the 6 volt mark. As far as battery life, I've gotten most of a day off of a set of batteries, and that's using this exclusively at right around 45 watts in wattage mode. Let's talk about the modes a little bit to get between variable voltage and variable wattage. The menu key in this brings you into variable voltage mode. The menu key in this brings you into variable wattage mode. So I'll go ahead and put it in wattage mode. Again, detects our coil resistance and then brings us into wattage mode. Now if you hold the menu key down again and press the button, actually I think I need to press this one. Is it this one? There we go. That shows you basically one of the screens that's designed for wallpapers. So if you had a custom image, the image would display up here, and then you'd have your information bar at the bottom. So that's basically going to scroll through your different settings there, your different screens. But it works pretty good. You're going to see my nasty coil. Look at that coil. Man, that needs to be cleaned. But, you know, obviously capable of producing quite a bit of vapor. And you can see your status screen change when I press the button. There's just a little bit of delay there between when I let off the button and it stops actually firing, but not bad. And as you can see here, this is one of the things I discussed. You see how this door is popping up just as I'm holding it? I mean, it's pretty loose in there. Really would have liked to see a magnet. They probably couldn't do it because of the screen, but it's not particularly secure. I'm sure there's some sort of a simple fix that I could implement to fix that issue. But that's pretty much it for the detailed look. So let's come up to the main camera for some summary, some final thoughts. All right, so that was the close look. Now let's talk about a couple little things here. One of the things that I wanted to note was when your batteries are hot off the charger, this is going to show 8.4 volts right around there on your battery meter, indicating your charge level. It does cut off as far as it stops vaping right about the 6 volt mark, but that brings your batteries really low, so you probably want to change it right around the 6.4 volt mark, I would say. Just so you don't drain those batteries too much. Again, some of these batteries, they don't come back when you drain them that far. Issues. The time to deliver the device. There were a lot of promises that weren't kept. I put money down, half of the money down, back in October of 2013, and I just got the device about 8 or 10 days ago. So that was a little bit of a wait. And I do know that one of the vendors that purchased a large order got their devices before the first run purchasers got theirs. So that's more of an issue with just the company and how they do business. Hopefully this is something that's a one-time thing from them, but it's not. It doesn't leave a really good impression with a lot of the first-run buyers. I wasn't the only one that had noted that. There were quite a few people who were frustrated by that. The device is solid. I wish I could turn this off completely, and I can't. I can put it into sleep mode, but that screen is still powered on and it's still using battery life. The door is a little bit loose. That's another issue. I really wish there was a way to adjust this 510 connection. For any of you modders making DNA devices or regulated devices, please try to figure out a way to make a fully adjustable 510 so that we can get a nice rock solid connection. I don't like the floating pins. It doesn't give you a lot of security when you look at something that's wiggling around a little bit. I would rather be able to screw it in tight and not have to worry about shorting out a floating pin for that matter. So those are really the only issues that I have with the device. The only other issue would be flexibility. Again, I cannot take like a 2.5 ohm item atomizer and put this on there and have full range It just doesn't do it. It caps out at 5.5 volts. So that's a very important consideration. And, 5.5 volts on a 1 ohm atomizer is, I believe it is 30.25 watts. So basically you have about the same power as a DNA 30 at 1 ohm. But it can't do stuff higher than that at the same wattage. So you can't go to 30 watts on a 3.5 or a 2.5 ohm atomizer. Kanger Aero tank here, and I'm going to go ahead and screw this in and show you exactly what I'm talking about. So here's the Kanger Aero tank, and you saw this thing was pumping out some pretty hefty vapor before. So resistance is reading at 2.13, and I'm going to go ahead and crank this up to 5.5 volts. And it's reading at 14.9 watts. I mean, do you see the difference there, folks? If this is what you vape, this is not for you. It really isn't. And people need to be aware of that before they invest the money in it. So again, I have it totally maxed out. And my Preveri handles this better. Thank you. And if you see I've missed anything, go ahead and comment, and I will try to get the information for you. I'll put a link to the Grand Innovations Facebook page so you can go take a look at that. But until next time, happy vaping. Delicious.